I'm Jared Chung. I'm the Executive Director of CareerVillage, and I work at the intersection of AI and career education. I'm very excited to be able to share with you a few thoughts. NAF asked me to be here with you today to share some perspectives on how we should think about career education in this era of AI. Now, undoubtedly, AI is everywhere these days. We see it dominating the news cycles. It is all over social media. It's in your movies. It's in your TV shows. It's in your podcasts. It also is affecting how a lot of us operate the things that we've done for years. At this point, all of the major LLM foundries, Google, OpenAI, Anthropic, and the others, have released toolkits for educators. Many of you are already using them for lesson plan drafting, generating vocabulary lists, rubrics, translating text, and so on. And yesterday, here in Denver at NAF Next, I was really excited to see the AI in action session where many of these tools were being demonstrated and used by roughly 100 of you here in this room. It's also had a profound impact on the organization that I run, CareerVillage, and how we operate. And I've been the executive director of CareerVillage now for almost 15 years after leaving the private sector. And I think that the way AI has changed our organization and our work is telling for the broader career education field. So I want to share a bit of that with you. A little context first. CareerVillage.org focuses on large-scale career navigation services. We believe strongly that career navigation, career advising, and career coaching are an essential component of the entire economic mobility formula. It is the layer that wraps around all the skills needed to do the job. So these are the skills needed to pick the job and pursue and get the job, not the skills needed to do the job, but they're an essential part. They're an essential link in the chain. Now, we focus on ways that we can use technology to help facilitate that, and at very, very large scale, because the scale of the challenge, scale of the need is massive. Okay, I'll walk you through our services. So first, I should note that we operate pretty much like an R&D lab for the career education space. If you have a great idea, let us know. We will go figure out if it will work, or if we can make it work. We have built everything. We built career games. We have built career to-do lists. We have built career plan review applications. We have built a ton of things. But we are by far most known for two platforms. The first one is our Q&A platform. It's a career Q&A. It's the largest independent career Q&A in the world, 100% nonprofit and open access, which means anybody, even without logging in, can go access every question and every answer we have. On this site, learners can ask any question about any career, and we have 200,000 working professionals who've signed up as volunteers to post answers to your learners' questions. Through that experience, our learners build their career self-efficacy, they find role models, and we are extremely good at facilitating this Q&A. We have a 100% answer rate. Questions receive their first answer the same day, and usually they get, on average, 5 answers per question. I'm not going to be focusing on the career Q&A for the vast majority of this talk, but if you're interested in it, I welcome you to please check out the QR code, and you can share it with your learners. The second platform that we're most known for is Coach. It's our AI career coaching platform. And it's available at aicareercoach.org for free to the public. We are very proud of this platform, and we're proud to say that this was the first AI career coach of the LLM era. Basically, the way this went down was ChatGPT dropped at the very end of November 2022. About 5 or 6 weeks later, we had validated that there was enough there that with the right scaffolding and guardrails, we wanted to see it in front of learners and started building our own version of an AI career coach. This, we believe, is the highest quality career coach based on an AI application that's available anywhere. It's extremely well-built, focused on coaching, pedagogy, and it is really reliable. It uses a chat-based interaction with learners, but unlike ChatGPT, we have a robust menu of pre-built activities, over 50 activities that learners can pick from. We have extensive safety and quality monitoring systems and a lot of very career-specific data integrations. And most important of all, the coaching is consistently great. Coach can cover everything from early stage career exploration to networking basics, resume, cover letter, and everything into the very latest stages of actually landing a job. We were so early that we picked what we thought was an obviously great name, Coach. Turns out every other thing that was in this field ended up picking something pretty similar to that over the following years. But we're really happy to be a leader in that field. So we built Coach not just to provide a great service, but also to showcase a broader idea of how AI can be used to benefit learners if we design the AI system very intentionally for career development and with learners in mind. We also designed both of our platforms very intentionally to be working in concert with educators. So each of these platforms have tooling for educators and administrators to use so that they can act as an assistant to the work that you're already doing in the classroom, not a replacement of it. And based on our testing, what we found is that the evidence is extremely clear that hybrid services that include both people and technology work far better than either alone. Now, altogether, these platforms have served over 10 million people across about 190 countries. Most of them are in the United States, but there's a very long tail because the challenge of access to career navigation services is a global problem. We've helped learners pursue every occupation in America. They're in every county in every state, and they are at every stage of career development. These platforms have also attracted a large number of employers, a lot of Fortune 500 companies or Fortune 1000 companies, universities, nonprofits, workforce boards, and schools. And we provide our services, again, to the public for free, thanks to funding from corporations and foundations like Lumina and the Gates Foundation, Carnegie, and Google.org, and AT&T, and others. So I want to encourage you to take advantage of the fact that this has all been paid for and make sure that you can offer it to your learners as a free resource. Now, I think we've learned a lot from the experience of taking AI into our organization, and I want to share with you a little bit about how it's changed our staff and our organization. We haven't just been using AI to expand our services. It has also given our team more breadth in the kind of services that we can offer even within those. So for example, our staff routinely makes lists of services that we wish we could offer to learners, and then we have teams go out and try to see if they can use AI to actually offer those services when we knew we never could do that before. I'll give you a little example of that. We've always wished that when a learner told us something about their career interest, where they lived, that we would be able to go find networking opportunities for them in their city. But at our scale, we've never been able to scale that. But now we are using AI, and I'll show you a little bit of some of the technologies that we're using to do that. That kind of thinking, though, allows our staff to be to think more broadly about the ways that we can support our learners and to challenge ourselves to ask whether we can do things that we never thought were possible at the kind of scale that we operate at. Secondly, it allows us to go deeper. The information that you can glean from a chat with a learner is incredibly valuable, and with AI, we can now learn a lot about the state of that learner, what they're struggling with, much more than we ever were able to do before because we don't have to do it with surveys, and we don't have to have one of our staff members sit down personally to talk to every learner to do it. We can learn a lot from those chats, and allows us to provide a much more personalized and therefore deeper experience. And the last one isn't really about our services at all. It's really about the way that it's changed the way that our own staff thinks. When we challenged ourselves to start embracing AI, it forced our staff to really start to not just think about how the technology could potentially be used differently, but I think it unlocked for our staff the ability to question a lot of the other things that we were already doing, our operating procedures, the way we even do meetings or interact with each other. And I've found that the agility of our team has really improved. We're much more likely to be changing plans, changing content, changing methods much more quickly than ever before. And I think it's made our school partners and our learners much happier to work with us. We've learned a lot from doing this. We're sharing a lot of these insights online. And I do want to highlight for you one of the ways we're doing that is through our LinkedIn article series, The Agentic Era, the title of which is a teaser for some of the themes we're going to talk about in the rest of this talk. So my hope here is for the rest of this talk, to put aside the work that we do at CareerVillage and to zoom out and talk about the labor market. It is the key to the work that we do, and we need to understand what's happening in the labor market in order to be able to reason about the role of career education and AI right now. So all of those of you here in the room who have been trying to keep track of the predictions of how AI is going to impact the labor market, I'm guessing have probably noticed a trend over the past maybe year, but especially the last 6 months. A dizzying chaos in the headlines. Is AI already taking jobs, or have the impact on the labor market been minimal? Will 300 million jobs be impacted by AI, as Goldman Sachs predicted, or is it 12 million, as McKinsey suggests? Are we facing a jobs apocalypse, or will AI create 78 million net new jobs? Is the impact of AI on the job market way bigger than anyone realizes, or probably overblown? And my favorite, just a few weeks ago, in the same week, the CEO of Indeed.com, who would know a lot about this, you'd think, reassured viewers on CNBC that your paycheck is safe. AI is mostly rewriting job descriptions. It is not deleting them. And that same week, the CEO of Anthropic, Dario Amodei, went on a big PR tour announcing that AI could wipe out half of all entry-level white-collar jobs. And he predicted a spike in structural unemployment in America to 10 to 20% within 5 years. So these are obviously highly disparate perspectives and predictions. Does anybody know what I'm talking about? When you are reading the news, you know what you've seen this, right? The dizzying feeling, the whiplash feeling. We're calling this incoherence. So this is the chaotic era of pretty much any major form of change where you get these competing predictions of what's going to happen in the future. In this case, it's news of AI-driven job loss and news of a lack of AI-driven job loss that are competing for your attention and trying to influence you. I think that this reminds me in a big way of the very early days of COVID, where I think at the very beginning we were trying to figure out what we were actually dealing with, and there were predictions all over the place. Is it a pandemic or not? Is it a curve? Is it a blip? Is it exponential growth that will never stop? All these different perspectives were dizzying for us, and it took a while before we started to get information that people started to coalesce around and say, okay, that probably is what we're dealing with. We understand the nature of the challenge. I think we're in that phase right now where it's the same kind of incoherence in the narrative. So what I'm going to attempt to do here with you today is to share our latest thinking, not on whether there's incoherence. We're very clear there's incoherence. But actually try to explain why the narrative is so incoherent, so that when you're reading these articles, you don't just put them aside and shy away from them, but you actually know how to read them to figure out what is new about that prediction, or whether you can use it to guide the work that you're doing. Okay, so the first part of the answer is that when you actually read the research that's underpinning all those articles, it tends to be that there's a very small, finite set of actual predictions being made by qualified economists and institutions. They end up propagating into a huge number of headlines, but we're looking at, at this point, dozens every 3 to 4 months that come out. So not a huge number. And when you look at those, what you end up seeing is that they're really not debating whether the change will be big. Even those that predict that there's not a lot going on will still say large change tends to be coming. What they're debating is how long we have before the large scale of change affects the job market. So it's a discussion of the pace of change. And there's a couple of very good reasons for why there's so much discrepancy in the predictions of the pace of change. To explain that, I need to briefly speak about where we are in the different eras of AI. Now, we talk about AI as if it's one thing, but it's worth distinguishing the eras of popular AI technology because each of them has a really different impact on the job market. Now, the very first era of AI to really hit the popular consciousness was predictive machine learning. This is about 10 years ago. A lot of you remember this as the opportunity we had to figure out whether we could help learners get into these new occupations of data scientist or machine learning engineer or these other kinds of occupations, a relatively small and discrete number of them that cropped up when predictive machine learning became a the way that most technology companies and other enterprises were trying to add new features into their applications. Now, I think generally speaking, the career education field actually handled this era of AI pretty well. We saw this as being an era that was creating new opportunity for our learners. There were some nice high-paying jobs that would be available, and the training needed to get into them wasn't completely insurmountable. It would take 18 months, 24 months, sometimes 36 months to take a learner on the journey where they could qualify for an entry-level position working in the field of predictive machine learning. Then 3 years ago, 2022 undoubtedly was the year where generative AI really hit the fore. That's the year where Stable Diffusion created the ability to generate images, and then suddenly everybody on Twitter and Instagram had a AI-generated profile picture. It's the same year that ChatGPT was released. So it's when this field of generative AI, which is making text, images, videos, music, really started to come, and it still continued to grow. This is 99% of what people talk about these days when they're talking about AI. I think that generally the career education field was much better prepared to handle predictive machine learning than the generative AI field, because we're still trying to figure out the implications for the new jobs that will be created and how we can help learners prepare for those jobs. The problem, the challenge we have right now, is that we already have a new and even bigger era of AI starting. This is the agentic AI era. Now, I'm not sure the extent to which all of us here in the room are on the same page about what that even means. So we're going to do a tiny bit of definition here. The word agentic. There's actually several competing technical definitions of this word. I'm going to throw them all aside and say at the end of the day, what the word agentic means, it's all about autonomy. For the past 3 years, for the most part, when you've been interacting with generative AI, it is there for you when you go to it. It interacts with you. You go to it, you post something, you ask something, you put a prompt in, whether you're generating text or an image or something, it replies back to you. But we don't give them very much autonomy to interact with pretty much anything else. It's only the past few months that a lot of these chat applications like Gemini or Claude or ChatGPT have been doing some stuff, just some basic stuff on their own. They'll do some Google searching for you. Sorry, they search the internet for you, I should say. They might, make some code for you or even run it in a sidebar. There's just a little bit of stuff here. They might go check, if you granted access to it, they might check your file system or look at your email even. But it's just starting right now. Agentic AI applications are apps that we endow with the autonomy to take actions on their own. They follow your directives, but they're doing it on their own autonomously. And when we use the word agent, we're talking about a program that is giving a model the tools that it would need to be able to autonomously control or access other systems and services. Now, there's a spectrum of autonomy that I want to make sure we're clear on, because this spectrum affects all those numbers you see in the headlines around job market loss. On the left-hand side, we have specialized agents. These are agents that are designed, typically built by engineers, to operate for specialized purposes within constrained environments. So for example, if anybody here uses Salesforce or ServiceNow or other platforms like that, you may have agents within that environment that are really reliable, but only within that environment. They can pretty much operate those systems only. On the far other extreme, we have what we're calling general purpose free agents. These are agents that you use to do things that they have never seen before in pretty unconstrained environments. At the moment, the environments we can give them access to are computers. They do not operate these days in the real world. This is not a robotics. This is within a computer environment. Okay, so what I want to actually do, let me go back for 1 second. So what I actually want to do is I want to focus on the general purpose free agents, because these are the kind that are the biggest uncertainty in the job market predictions. And because I think it's really much better to show you how they work than it is to tell you about how they work, I recorded a demonstration of a general purpose free agent last week, just for y'all. And this is it. So I'm going to explain what you're going to see here, because it's going to happen pretty quickly. What you're looking at is a video capture of my desktop. And I'm going to put up on screen the prompt that I'm giving to the agent, and then we're going to watch it run. Now, I'll give you a teaser of what the prompt is, because although you'll see the prompt, I don't want you to have to read the whole thing. Basically, I made up a task, a typical entry-level knowledge worker task. In this case, it is an accounting task. It's invoice categorization. If you were to take somebody who was now just joining your company, working for you in accounting, you would say to them, an entry-level worker, you'd say, to categorize the invoices, you've got to go to the folder where the invoices are, go look through all the invoices, compare them against our accounting codes, make sure that you figure out, is this software, or is it travel, or is it, books, or whatever it is, and then, put it into the spreadsheet or enter it into the form, whatever that sort of typical task might be. Now, in many cases, invoice categorization is already, at large enterprises, handled by predictive machine learning. But at a small business, it might not be. Or perhaps at a new business, you wouldn't. But it actually doesn't matter what the task is. The reason I picked it is because it incorporates a lot of the typical types of things that an entry-level knowledge worker does. They retrieve some information from a place. They cross-reference it against something else. They put that information somewhere else. Then they might communicate with you about it and work on the next task. That's what I'm asking this agent to do. But I'm giving it that instruction. I want you to complete this task. And then I'm giving it control of a browser. That's it. I'm not telling it how to operate anything that it sees. I'm just telling it to achieve the task. Let's watch it in action. So first thing I'm doing is I'm pulling up the instruction. I wrote it in a code editor, and I'll explain why, but this is not code. This is, in this case, English. It could be any human language. And if you read it through, you'll see that it's pretty much just a short standard operating procedure. This whole one fits just on this one screen here. I'm sure everybody in this room works at a place where you have standard operating procedures written down for how to complete certain processes. That was it. I just ran the agent. I ran the agent, and then at this point, I'm hands off the keyboard. I literally, when I recorded this, stood up and I walked away to get a cup of coffee. So everything that's happening right now is the agent making its own decisions. It decided to open up the browser. It followed the instruction to the folder, but from that point, it starts figuring out what can I click on to open up the invoices. It went through, it compared it, I don't know if you saw it compared it against the accounting invoice codes. It decided that it was ready to proceed to submitting the form. It opened up the form and starts reading the page to figure out how it submits the form. It's filling it out, and it's going to continue on to the next one. In the foreground is the browser that the agent is controlling. In the background is the agent thinking. It's checking, am I ready to proceed to the next step? What would the next step be? What should I click on, given what I see here? I never showed it any of these pages before. What you can see as in the browser is that in this particular case, the agent is trying to figure out what's on the page, right? It's trying to understand the interface itself. Now, this task works, in my testing last week, about 9 times out of 10. Sometimes it will get stuck. It won't know what to click on. It gets confused by the interface. If I let it run for more than 60 or 70 or 80 steps, it might get confused or forget what it was working on. So there are limitations to this technology. And those of you who are eagle-eyed here and are looking on the left-hand side will see that this also is kind of slow. I've sped up the video so you don't have to watch the whole thing run. But to complete 4 invoices, this agent takes 8 or maybe 9 minutes to complete that. You'd be faster and I'd be faster. But this agent runs at the moment, about $2.50 per hour. And remember, I'm getting coffee when this is happening. Okay, there's one other thing. What if you have 10,000 invoices? Now, you do not want to wait for this slow agent to slowly work its way through 10,000 invoices just to find out that it forgot what it was doing on invoice number 20. There's a different solution. We run them at the same time. What I'm showing you right here is that same task, but instead of being one agent running it, this is 7. And I did it kind of an easy way. I just opened up 7 windows to run the agent 7 times. What's going to happen here is going to be kind of busy, so I'm going to give you a preview. I'm going to click on each of the 7 windows, and I'm going to hit Enter, which runs each agent. And then you're going to see my mouse moving around. I'm doing my best to organize the browsers that the agents are opening up, just so you can see what's happening on the screen. The agents have started reading the task. They're deciding what they're going to do. Every one of them decides to open the browser, because that is the right thing to do. This is me organizing the browser windows. Now, in this case, the agents will pretty much all do the same thing we just saw before, but what's important about it is that there's very little limitation on how many I can run at the same time. Here I'm running 7 because that's all I could fit on the screen to share with you. But I've run 20 agents on my laptop at the same time until basically I run out of RAM. If I can get more servers, more computers, or run it in the corporate data center, there's no limit to how many agents you can run at the same time as long as you're willing to spend the money to keep them running. 10,000 invoices? Run 10,000 agents for 2 minutes, and then shut them all down. What this means is that the surface area of what's automatable is expanding. Specifically, it's the surface area of what's automatable without an engineer. I didn't have to be an engineer to get this agent to follow the right instructions. All I had to do was write down what was the steps in English. Now, you did see, I'll admit, there was a code editor involved. At this stage of things, this stuff is still this is about 8, 9, 10 months old in terms of popular technology, so it's mostly still being deployed by engineers. But very soon, this technology you should expect that to all be behind the scenes. Already, there are a lot of interfaces where you can do this without having to run even a single line of code. For those who are interested in following up and trying this technology out for yourselves, just so you know, this particular program I use is called Browser Use. There's also Manus, which has no code requirement. You can do it all in the browser yourself. Google has Project Mariner. Anthropic released something called Computer Use Demo back in October of last year. And if you're going to spend a lot of money on OpenAI, you can use the program they have called Operator. All of these are general purpose agents. Okay, I think that this is really the important, even though there are limitations on this technology at this point in time, I will say, I think this is the important thing to keep an eye on because large enterprises are already working on this. And the reason I know that large enterprises are working on it is because 6 months ago, I was in this room in a hotel in East Palo Alto with a gathering of 100 CIOs, large enterprise CIOs, and they were talking about this, about agentic AI. And I remember vividly when one of the speakers on stage said the following words. They said, the CIO is the new head of HR for the digital workforce. And I looked around the room, and I will tell you that what surprised me was not what he said on stage, but how all the CIOs were like, I know exactly what you were talking about. That is right. This is what we are working on. So they're really concertedly trying to figure out how are they going to be able to deploy this automation capability within their companies. And they have challenges to do it. This is our runway. They have to figure out safety and security and training and infrastructure and all of that access control and all the things that could go wrong with this kind of thing. So they have some time to figure that out, and we have time to prepare. Okay, now I think that there are a couple things I'd share. First is, I think there's a big role to play for people in this. What I'm increasingly seeing is that the skills needed to manage the agents are in many cases the same skills you need to manage the work that happens today. This is manager work. And I think it raises the bar for all of us in the room as we're working with our learners. We have to raise the bar for them to say, look, you don't just need to learn how to do the work. You actually need to learn how to be in charge of the work. You need to get so good at this. Like sometimes we say if you really want to learn something, you need to be able to teach it. The same thing for our learners now. You need to know it so well that you can define the work, you can delegate the work, you can evaluate the work, and communicate about the work and what needs to happen next. It's a higher level of thinking. It raises the bar for our learners, and it's a challenge, but it's one that I think we need to embrace because it creates economic opportunity for them if they can wield this technology. Okay, I also want to acknowledge not all jobs are going to be impacted. I keep saying knowledge workers for a reason. This is the control of, at the moment, digital interfaces. This is not about the real world. This will not change tourism. It's not going to put asphalt down on the road in front of your house. It's not going to, stock the shelves in the retail setting. This is about knowledge work. But knowledge work is important to, entry-level knowledge work is important to a lot of the families in the communities that we serve. Okay, so let's come back to what does it mean for jobs? Now, one of the reasons why all these forecasters are not predicting the same numbers is because in order to make a prediction, they need to answer all of these types of questions. They need to answer how quickly AI systems will improve in reliability. They need to predict the behavior of employers. They need to predict the behavior of policymakers. They need to predict what you in the room are going to do to help talent be ready to wield the technology. And they are guessing all of that, and they're not guessing the same way. And this is why the predictions vary so much. So when you're reading the headlines and you're looking at the predictions, try to figure out what behavior they are predicting for the different stakeholders. This explains why the Anthropic CEO has a completely different perspective from an economist, has a completely different perspective from the McKinsey folks, and has a completely different perspective from employers themselves. This unfortunately leaves us with an uncomfortable blind spot. It's very difficult for anybody to predict all of that game theory. It's difficult for us too. Now, what I think, though, is that whether the big change is coming in 18 months or 10 years, that is already uncomfortably too fast for me. I think all of us need and would like more time. But unfortunately, we cannot wait to act. I think when we think about waiting, one of the ways I think about this is that learners are like surfers. They are out on the water, and the wave will come when they leave education. They'll have to get a job at that point in time. Now, you cannot say, wait, I'm not ready to get on my surfboard yet. You have to surf the labor market that you unfortunately or fortunately get. So that's why we don't have the option to really just say, well, we're not going to do it, we're not going to change anything. Okay, so when change is constant, agility is how you respond. So what I want to encourage us to do is to first advocate for agility. We need to advocate for change within our organizations. We need to advocate for the resources to make sure that we can be agile. Remember, I mentioned earlier that in our organization, we have people who are taking things we wish we could offer and then going off and trying to figure out how to automate them. That's because we went and we were able to convince people to give us the resources needed to have that kind of agility. So we need to advocate for this kind of agility as well, and we need to advocate for more time being spent with learners on career preparation. Second, we need to make sure that we revolutionize our own teaching within classrooms and ourselves. This means, I think, each of us needs to be reading the news about AI effects on the occupations or the industries that our academies serve to make sure that we are not just on top of that, but also engaging the learners and reading that news as well, right? They need to know what the change is, because if they can go into jobs aware of the AI's effect on the occupation and industry, they'll be better prepared for those interviews and better prepared to succeed in those jobs. And then lastly, something that I think here in America we have been unfortunately exceptionally bad at is explicitly teaching to career adaptability and measuring it. First thing I want to say about career adaptability is that you can measure it. There are multiple assessments for career adaptability. We use the CAS-SF, but you can use many others. Career adaptability in this case is, once again, not the skills to do the job, but the skills to pick, pursue, and get the job. It's your social capital. It is your career confidence. It's career concern. It's all of those constructs. Second, it's a muscle, and it needs dedicated time to practice. And lastly, career coaching is a key element of how we deliver it. And I want to remind everybody our conclusion that hybrid career coaching is the best available option for career coaching. Okay, so those are a few ideas for you, but I'm confident that you're going to get 100 more ideas when you're here in Denver. My call to action for you all is to really consider that this is not a normal time. And I think you may be tempted to think, what is the one thing I'm going to take away from Denver and bring with me back to the school or back to the organization that I work at? What I would challenge you is, in this extraordinary time, what are the 20 ideas you're going to bring back and implement? What are the things you're going to do where you take the ideas you hear here and you come up with the new one that you're going to use to lead your building, your learners, and your communities to go even further in this really extraordinary moment? I think we have an opportunity to be the solution. I think this is a pivotal time. I believe that we are in a once-in-a-multiple generation period of change for the economy and for society because of the integral role that jobs play in really every aspect of economic mobility and economic prosperity here. And as I was reflecting on coming here and why I was particularly excited to be here with you is because I really don't think anybody else is coming. I don't think there is any other sector. I promise you the technology sector is not going to solve this problem for us. I promise you that politicians are not going to give us the policy that will solve this problem for us. The leadership is going to come from career educators, or it's not going to come. So I think it's on us here in this room to really lead in the moment. I think we have to revolutionize our own practices, our own organizations, and I think through that we can make sure that our learners are taking advantage and riding that wave to really great economic prosperity. I want to thank you for taking the time to allow me to speak. I want to thank you for having me here, and I want to thank you for doing the great work that you do. I appreciate you very much. Thank you.